we get started, there is a disclaimer to get out of the way. Trade Ideas, that's us, we're a publisher, and you understand that no content published as part of the Trade Ideas trading services constitutes a recommendation that any particular investment, security, portfolio of securities, transaction, or investment strategy is suitable for any specific person. In other words, we're not making investment recommendations right now. If you want that, you got to get a RIA, an investment advisor, but we have awesome technology for finding profitable opportunities in the market. So I won't keep you any longer. I'll go ahead and turn you over to Dan Merkin, CEO of Trade Ideas. Hey, Dan.
Scott, thank you very much. I hope that my audio is coming in loud and clear. Is it coming in okay? What do you think?
I hear you loud and clear.
And with me today is our resident expert educator, Steve Gomez, also the author of one of the best things that we have going, which is our Trade of the Week. And Steve, you'll talk about that, in a little bit at the end of the webinar. But let's jump into it. Whoops. Sorry. Before we jump, let me talk about the title. Forget what you know about the stock market. It's really going to be appropriate for what we're going to talk about, Steve, because there's something. And as you know, Steve, you and I did not discuss this before, and I always like to surprise people on webinars.
This is blind. This is a blind unveiling to me. Yes.
That's right, a blind unveiling. But as it turns out, Steve, a lot of things that you and I have been doing, and even saying to some extent, as it turns out, are wrong. We've seen this before in many things, like, when people used to think that the Earth was the center of the universe, for example. A lot of times you think about things that they seem right, but then evidence comes up and it turns out you were wrong. So let's talk about, first of all, what you guys are going to be seeing. Obviously, this is an introduction to Trade Ideas, and what we are is a quantitative virtual assistant that helps people find opportunities in the market as they happen and helps you figure out exactly what it is you need to do. That's really the part, Steve, that we've been working on a lot recently. We've had all of the technology underneath and building up on it for years, but what we're going to show today really is going to kind of hit it home and really hopefully will help me explain to you why a lot of things that we were taught and thought we knew was right was actually wrong. So first of all, it takes less than 3 minutes to get started. You go to our homepage, download the software, install, and then just click on one of the channels. And this is where when we demonstrate what we do, we're going to show you that it's a different approach to chasing and capturing alpha. So as far as just a high-level description, because a lot of you probably never heard of or have seen Trade Ideas, we've been in business for a very long time, since 2003. But just since 2015, when we started to develop and introduce elements of our AI to its launch, we've been growing exponentially, and we are the fastest growing financial subscription service in the US. So let me explain to you. I'm going to turn off the presentation because there's only a few slides left anyways, and I'm going to really just go into the software. Please let me know, can everyone see what I'm showing you?
I can see it.
Okay.
And if anybody has questions about what they're about ready to see, you can detach that questions module and we can interact through there as well.
Right. So Steve, let me talk to you out. So this is basically, in essence, exactly what somebody who just downloads the software, installs it on their desktops, opens it up, of course, after logging in, assuming they're using, our either trial, which we're going to talk about today, or their subscribers. So, ladies and gentlemen, notice what's happening. Primarily notice that Steve and I are talking, I'm talking, but something is happening behind the scenes. And Steve, here's what it turns out, and this is something that you and Andy and Jamie should later use in webinars in the future. But, we talk a lot about, and there's this ongoing meme possibly, that the market is information overload. And everyone gets why that is, certainly. Tons of stuff happening. It's all happening faster, right? Information overload. You with me?
Oh yeah, fire hose of data coming at you.
Fire hose of data. But I'm about to flip the the screen on there, Steve, and I'm going to tell you that as it turns out, let me put on Facebook here. It's not exactly as people think. So prior to just the latest release of trade ideas, if somebody was to open up trade ideas for the first time, this is what they would see. A screen, it would default to a channel. It might be a different channel, but for talking purposes, this is fine. And you would see a familiar stock. Here's Facebook. Then there would be some other stuff here, some other stuff here, and you could get detailed information about Facebook. But as we continue to do our extensive analysis of customer behavior, one of the things that dawned on us was that people are kind of hesitant to click on things, Steve. So whereas everyone assumes that the market is information overload, it's actually impressional information overload. You think that there's so much data, you get like blurry-eyed, your hands freeze, but as a result, do you know what happens? You do nothing, and you get information underload.
You freeze.
Yeah, you freeze. You are a deer in the headlights, and you are paralysis by analysis. But imagine again, before you even become the paralysis analysis guy where you're, drawing 17 trend lines of 48 different color schemes on your charts, again, that, imagine somebody like your dad or like, my dad or somebody a little bit older, that maybe aren't as technologically savvy, but they do have capital to apply and like to potentially trade. They just don't know what to do. So we realized that, again, to break that first big hurdle, what we needed to do is have our software assist people in seeing things in the market without people having to do anything. So we created this surfing. And now when you turn on trade ideas, you instantly see like, oh, look at this dragon wave. Something's happening in aftermarket. They must have gotten annihilated in their earnings. NTIP, something positive was happening today, 7.8%. AYX software up 8%. So you're getting these visuals, and they're, you know what it is, one of the great ways in my mind, Steve, to look at it is reps. So think about, again, the golf course, the gym, homework for calculus, for example. If you want to do something good, you have to practice. And how do you practice in the stock market? Now, we've talked about that almost incessantly, that, well, you would have to see something, maybe do something, a lot of doing. But as you know, doing is intimidating to people, especially if you feel like you don't know anything. It's almost like, Steve, do you remember when you first sat down in front of your bass? How terrible did you sound?
On my guitar? Oh, it was horrible.
Right, but think about what it took you to be able to play level 42 for me.
Trial and error.
Trial and error, lots and lots of practice. So in essence, what we've now distilled the experience of the software to is you not needing to worry about the specifics of the stocks, but you are just going to be presented with visuals that are really interesting, that are already pre-selected by the software. Like, for example, look at this gigantic daily move, okay? Look at this move that's potentially a reversal. All of these things are kind of pre-software selected. And of course, now it makes it much easier for a client of trade ideas to channel surf, because when you're channel surfing, you are really actually channel surfing. And here's what's going to happen, Steve. You're going to find out that some of these symbols like AYX, they're, in more than one channel.
Well, I was going to mention that too. Can you go up to that NTP in the box above? I want to highlight something else that I don't think people are catching on. Okay. Look at the gradient. Now, what Dan's talking about here is helping guide the uninitiated where their eyes should go. People say all the time, how did you know that was a support level? How did you know that was a resistance level or a pivot level? Well, now on the intraday, whether it's a 5-minute or 15-minute or on the daily charts, you see there's a gradient color shade there, and that is a complete game plan for risk management. So if you zoom in a little bit on that MTP, what it's assuming that is that the current price, even though it's after hours, is 10.10. If you were to take that trade right here, the AI is showing you, there's your out. Your smart stop's basically going to be right there about 975, 976, whereas your upside, the high end of that blue gradient, is going to be your upside target. So just looking,
notice how correctly,
it is completely correct. Now, Andy and I and Jamie have 10,000 hours each of looking at charts with our eyes. And we are absolutely astounded and amazed and are applauding the developmental group for coming up with risk-reward levels that are actually so meaningful. They're not random. Yeah. They're verified by our eyes, but they are also double verified by the Trade Ideas technology and what's going on behind the scenes. But what that's now giving the new average trader that just comes up and pulls up that chart of NTP says, okay, people are talking about this chart. Maybe I should participate. Okay, I'm going to buy here and I'm going to let the downside be here. And there I'm off. I'm on my way, and I'm learning. I'm making mistakes, hopefully learning from them, hopefully making some money. But what Dan's saying is that we're taking the visuals to a new level and getting rid of the overlay, incessant overlays of charts and indicators and the Ichimura cloud or whatever seems to be popular at this time. We're trying to teach people how to look at charts that are naked footprints in the sand and then just use the AI's algorithms behind the scenes giving you, I'll repeat that word, giving you the risk reward for every single trade. This is the first time that we've had input and output. Doesn't matter if he types in Microsoft. It's going to show us what Microsoft would look like if you wanted to take a trade right now. If the market was open, your downside is going to be right there. And my eyeball looks at it and says, yeah, that's a pivot level. It was a support, then it was a resistance. It's a perfect level. I'm so impressed.
It's kind of like what you were saying. This is where through our experience collectively that the technology was designed the right way, and the components of it, especially the components that are changing automatically, where it's never like drawing one thing. Like if Microsoft was during market hours and it had some volatility and you looked at it at 7 and you thought about what to do, well, you would have one idea and hopefully that would be what you would have to work with, right? But 2 hours later, depending on what Microsoft did, that would have to change.
It's dynamic. It's not going to stay static. It moves with the current price, and the AI is constantly looking for the nearest support, resistance, and pivot levels.
That's right. And it understands conceptually the volatility, and again, and it's making its best AI guess of where you need to be to really play it like a professional. And so this is really the crux to me, Steve, of our presentation today. It's to showcase that individuals now, and by the way, Steve, I don't know if you noticed this, but on your own software, if you refresh this bar, you'll see that Brad and I started to augment the channels because we're facilitating the surfing. And what you'll notice is, the intraday chart's a little bit bigger. We've made more room for the charts because now, the cooking is happening for you.
It's one button.
Yeah, and so notice how there's a constant theme. You've got the 2 big charts, you've got the top list, and then the streaming information. And of course, you can always just keep going. We haven't changed all of them yet, but this is the general idea. And so one of the things that this helps people with is certainly the ability to quickly be able to notice this, which, like, why would you not want to notice it, right? And this is the part that's beautiful, is that once you see it visually, Steve, it's a totally different perspective than just being able to observe some letters, which is, it's funny. It's kind of like, I always joke, or not joke, but I make comments about the concept of the cargo cult and how you'll walk into a trading floor somewhere and the standard thing is to have these dual Bloomberg monitors with a bunch of like symbols on them and a bunch of flashing things. And you and I both know. Yeah, well, $2,500. But we also know that nothing happens here. It's literally like the native, in the island building a bamboo airplane, hoping that will make the real airplane land. That's what they used to do. They're like, oh, because people would come into the South Pacific and, like, I've never seen an airplane before. We'll make one of these in bamboo, and that's the airplane guy. And I was like, okay.
Gilligan's Island episode.
Totally. Well, now in the hedge fund land, I want to be a hedge fund. Okay, I need a dual Bloomberg monitor. Start with that $2,500 a month. and that way I can read email on it.
By the way, just to answer a quick question, the screen resolution is as it should be. The reason it's kind of compressed up in the upper corner is because if Dan wanted to go from one channel to another, he could pull aside one of those windows that he wants to populate into the blue space, pin it, and then move to a different channel. So that's what a channel looks like on your screen, but we give you extra space to pull some windows aside and basically attach them and bulletin board pin them so you can switch channels and move around. So there's nothing wrong with your resolution if you're curious about that.
Yeah. So let me kind of, again, just high level showcase what you're seeing. You're seeing trade ideas through the channel surfing mode, and I'm sort of highlighting the channels, but really for me, the beauty of all of this is that we've taken away the necessity for you to really do anything, and simply now the key is if you observe something, does it catch your eye? Now that is only something that can be done by you, but Steve, as you know, we are going to make that easier as well by being able to favorite things, which will happen soon, and then be able to create symbol lists off of your favorites and alerts off of your favorites, because that will make more sense to you. But
creating a simple workflow as you go through the day. Right. Yes.
Well, we're automating the things that should be automated. You know, we're taking away all of this, you know, under the hood guy behind, you know, it's like investors and traders today still sort of want to be the motorheads. You know, they want to be underneath the Mustang on the Sunday with, you know, the beer and their buddy, and they're talking, and they're, you know, one guy's got the spark plug and he's doing something with it, the other guy's got the hose, and they're like, man, look at what we're doing. You know, but that has gone away. It's not that that's not cool, because again, even our customers, and Steve, you and yourself and Barry, who we'll mention later, you know, so many people use custom layouts, and you can get so complex with this, but it's not necessarily needed, because what we try to do as vendors of not just a subscription service, but of an idea generation platform, is really distill it to the basics, which is what you're seeing now. The basics is being able to see information that's relevant and act on it. Now, obviously, what is relevant? Now, if you like earnings because you want to play that, you can do that. If you like to look at things where there's really some serious momentum as well as volatility, like when you're looking at things like 16%, they might be smaller priced, but certainly not all of them. We have that for you without you needing to worry about it. You know, it's almost like everyone who subscribes, they sometimes think like, oh man, I got to learn how to change the oil and change the spark plug. No, no, no. This is all done for you. You need to worry about just driving, but even that has been kind of also automated. It really is more on capital allocation and risk management, where we assist in all of that, but you have to ultimately decide what to get into. And Steve, I mean, how many years have I been saying that I've never been more excited? But I really, really now have never, ever, ever been more excited for what we're doing at Trade Ideas than ever before.
Well, you got me excited because those risk-reward gradients, they're not a shill. Those are the real deal. I love what levels they're coming up with, one, and I love two, that we're recognizing that there's a lot of people that really are trying to simplify things and help with their learning curve. And that's just one of the best ways in which we can help the perspective of people's eyeballs looking at these charts, knowing where a good risk-reward ratio would set up based on the current price. So I mean, you told me about it, Dan, but until I saw it and until I started looking at the levels it was coming up with, that's when I started getting really excited, just like you.
Well, you know, what's kind of cool is, like, think about what we've done really in like the last 2 years. Like how much we pushed from, like, you know, as you say, you were like user number 1 or 2 or 3. And there was that time there that, you know, while we were developing the tech, the database and all that stuff, things were kind of, I don't want to say stable, but certainly stable-esque, because we were really working more on features other than really shifting the whole technology use case
It
perspective.
remained an advanced platform for a long time, yes.
Well, I really feel like now we're getting much more into, everyone talks about that Tinderization, right? Well, in Tinder, you look at somebody and you have to swipe left or right, but you're holding a phone and that's easy to do. In the stock market, you don't want to be swiping left or right. You just want to, if you like something, you can just click on it. Boom. You see what I'm saying? That's the beauty of it. You click, that means you like it. So in essence, to me, that's almost a little bit better because it's constantly updating you the pictures anyways. You don't have to work that hard.
For those, I was just going to say, for those that like the action, I don't think he's clicked on the Surge channel yet, have you? That's a channel that's dedicated to stuff that's really coming to life. A lot of good stuff on the Surge channel if you want to be an active day trader and play the high alpha movers.
Yeah, and I think, like we had said before, what you'll find is you'll see some really cross-pollination between Alpha Predator, social media, and Surge, and that's how you really know that, wow, it's a lot of different momentum metrics are all lining up together.
Now what Dan's just basically showing you here is essentially first base of trade ideas. You can get to second base by saying, hey, I'd really love to create a scan that shows me stocks under $10 with floats under 10 million shares that are doing high volume, et cetera, and there you go. Now you have the custom configuration window, which is second base of trade ideas. And so this is an endless supply of filters and events to create and kind of reverse engineer into what setups we may like as traders that have worked in the past. For instance, I have one that I've loved since 2003, actually. It's what Dan came to me in 2003 and said, hey, I want you to beta test this. What would be a cool alert if I could build it for you? I said, well, if you could figure out a way to have stocks gap up, pull in a little bit, and then go back to a new high, I'm in. And they did it. And it's called the gap up false retracement.
Yeah.
And there you go. I've been using it to this day. I shared it with a couple of people today. So second base is complete customization of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Third base is back testing everything that you've come up with.
That's right.
And I'll leave it to Dan to say what home plate is.
Well, home plate is the artificial intelligence. And Steve, the funny thing is, I don't even often want to push people to that just yet because I want to especially in this kind of webinar, I want to keep it to the basics in the sense that you don't have to be subscribed to the premium service to get value out of trade ideas.
Exactly.
What we've been doing here, and all of this is for basic. I haven't really haven't touched the premium functionality. I'd save that for another webinar. We want to show you that look how much you can get, and this is our basic product. It's $99 a month. So, like Steven said, we've got this is the basic. We've got second base, which is where you can configure everything, and we've got third, where you can set custom alerts for things. So if you like this, you can right-click and you create a custom alert, and you can just say, love it. And of course, it'll, did I not do it?
Set it and forget it.
Yeah, set it and forget it. And so, let me do one more here.
That's the one example I gave earlier. I just love visually looking at that. You can see it's at least a 2-to-1 risk reward. If you were to take the current price on that green tag, it's a 2-to-1. You're risking 1 to make 2, and those are viable levels.
And you can see why, because it's held here, and it makes sense. That's why, again, so exciting. But all of this is what Steve's saying. You really just do it and forget it, and it's there, and it's all automating. It's really, Trade Ideas is now the full automation of the proper active investing workflow. So Steve, as I was saying, this is going to be a shorter webinar because so many cool things are here, and we have a lot of stuff to show in terms of what's going on and how you can take advantage of it. So let me just dive into this. So here's the part about the artificial intelligence that Steve was talking about, and it's in the performance base. As you can see, what we've done compared to the S&P on a portfolio. And there was an article written about this in Benzinga recently, and I think equities.com. So it is well worth the premium money, but just not the focus of today's presentation. So now, something that we really want you guys to be aware of is that we have an all-access pass to Trade Ideas, which is a way for you guys to see everything, the premium features, everything that we've got to offer for only $8.88. And this is where you want to sign up, tradeideas.com/test drive. It will be starting on July 17th and goes through the 21st, and there's a contest in there as well. The other thing, and this is what I really want to let Steve kind of finish us off. Steve, you took over Trade of the Week for me, and you've done, I would say, a much better job than I have, because you've been very formulaic and consistent with your approach. Not saying that I was terrible, just saying that I was much more generalized. I'm very impressed about how you took that concept of taking something that the AI gives and making it your own, and then creating such a high value product out of it. And that's why I put some of your best work here, WTW and PayPal. But tell everyone about the Trade of the Week and why this is one of the best things you can do, especially since it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, it's a free idea, and there's some content in there with some charts and some markups and some explanations. But ideally, the genesis of the trade comes to us through our Trade Ideas technology. And so we narrow it down to a short list going into the weekend of a few concepts and a few symbols of stocks that showed up on some of our scans. And we kind of basically, run it through a very small committee of 2 or 3 at the most. And by the time Monday morning rolls around in your mailbox, there's an idea that sometimes might say buy at the open, sometimes it might say buy above, sometimes it might be buying a pullback, but it's derived from Trade Ideas technology and curated. We make mention of the phrase man plus machine. So the Trade of the Week is the ultimate man plus machine, where we curate some of the stuff that's coming through. And just as an example, PayPal was the Monday morning email that people had this week, and if you pull up a chart of PayPal today, you're probably pretty happy. Weight Watchers was called out back in February, and it's up 165, 170%. So there's PayPal. That particular scan was showing up as a stock that was doing high consolidation, getting ready to break out to an all-time high. So consolidation, all-time high, volume, market cap, things like that were all considerations that went onto the short list to curate that. And then there's Weight Watcher, which essentially just hasn't looked back since February. February it was called out, and it just really hasn't looked back. So that one's the loss leader of the year, up 160%. We just did a little bit of details. They're not all going to be winners, but we have great reasons for putting in stops, and the average trade that didn't work out was probably a 5 or 6% loser, but on the upside the averages were like 30%. So far this year the Trade of the Week has been giving like 5-to-1 ratio in terms of percentage performance, winners versus losers, and it's free to you. It costs you nothing. It's kind of our marketing thank you for listening and getting more information. So at trade-ideas.com/free you can sign up for the Trade of the Week, and it'll be in your email box every Monday morning before the market starts.
Yeah, Steve, a fantastic job on the Trade of the Week. And again, I think you're going to get more and more of an audience, probably in the several thousands, as people start to realize how cool this is. And also, the one thing that I would like to add to your overview is that, and I don't think Steve mentioned this, that the Trade of the Week is the Trade of the Week, and obviously one of the reasons why it's free is that this is where we wanted to showcase that we really aren't specifically about day trading. So I want to make sure everyone knows the Trade of the Week is not something where we send you an email, it's like get in, and then 10 minutes later, get out!
The content that's put together is position trading in mind. Longer term patience, just identifying our downside and then allowing the stock to hopefully do what we want it to do. And sometimes that takes a couple weeks of patience. So for those that are not into day trading and playing musical chairs of low float, high beta stocks, high alpha stocks, and want to slow things down a little bit, this is the kind of stuff that we're offering for that particular time period.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that everyone here at the webinar knows we're very easy to get a hold of. We are active on Twitter. Steve is Today Trader. I'm at Trade Ideas 1. Please like us on Facebook. And if you need to get a hold of us, info@trade-ideas.com, or of course I can be reached directly. And we also have a direct line number. I want to just go back real quick, make sure that everyone knows this is the key for this webinar. Please be aware, this test drive gives you full access for 5 trading days from July 17th to the 21st and for only $8.88. I want to thank everybody for attending this webinar. Steve, thank you for helping me out today. Really appreciate it. Scott and everyone else, thank you, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Sure thing. All right. See you next time.
See you.